Good morning. Start your day informed and ahead. Today is Tuesday, the 18th of August. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
And I'm Cheska Litoncala. We are bringing you the perfect mix of the headlines you need and the conversations that shape your day.
From the news desk to the digital space, we have got you covered. I'm Pauline Berzosa, and welcome to Morning Matters.
Now, first in the news, two low-pressure areas are being monitored as the southwest monsoon, or habagat, continues to affect Luzon and the Visayas. One LPA was last located 1,115 kilometers east of northern Luzon and has a high chance of developing into a tropical cyclone. Another LPA was spotted 295 kilometers west-northwest of Lawag City, Ilocos Norte, with a medium chance of tropical cyclone development. Meanwhile, the habagat will continue to bring rains over large parts of Luzon and western Visayas. Pag-asa warns of possible flash floods or landslides in areas hit by moderate to heavy rains.
Now, the LPA inside the Philippine Area of Responsibility has a high chance of developing into a tropical depression. And for more updates, we are now joined by Pag-asa Weather Specialist Charmaine Varilla. Charmaine, hanggang kailan ba magpapaulan itong habagat?
Yes, basta nakikita po natin patuloy pa rin yung dadalhin ng mga pag-ulan ng habagat within this month. Pero bahagyang Thursday at Friday, bahagyang hihina po yan, dala nga ng paghina rin ng habagat po natin. Pero yung low pressure area po natin ay magkabilaan for today. So yung una muna, yung nasa silangang bahagi ng ating bansa ay nasa layong 1,115 km east ng northern Luzon. At yung ikalawa naman ay nasa layong 295 km west-northwest ng Lawag City, Ilocos Norte. At sa loob nga ng 24 oras ay mataas na yung tsansa na maging isang ganap na bagyo nitong isa at posible nga papangalanan natin yan na si Bagyong Neneng. At sa nakikita po natin ngayon po ay walang direktang epekto yung dalawang LPA sa ating Philippine Area of Responsibility at maging sa buong bansa, ngunit patuloy nito pinag-iibayo at hinahatak yung habagat na siya nagdadala ng mga pag-ulan dito sa Luzon at Visayas. At currently nga, malalakas at patuloy na mga pag-ulan ang dadalhin nito sa may Benguet, La Union, Pangasinan, Zambales, Bataan, Cavite, Batangas at Occidental Mindoro. Pabugso-bugso malalakas din ang mga pag-ulan dito sa Metro Manila, Ilocos Sur, Abra, Tarlac, Pampanga, Bulacan, Nueva Ecija, Laguna, Rizal, Oriental Mindoro at Antique. At kalat-kalat naman ng mga pag-ulan ang ibibigay ng habagat dito sa Negros Island Region na lalabing bahagi ng Luzon at Western Visayas.
Charmaine, pagdating naman sa rainfall, can we expect the same amount today given na kahapon nasa 201.7 millimeters nga ang naitala sa Quezon City sa loob lamang ng 5 oras?
Yes po, no. Nakikita pa rin po natin yan na posible dahil nga nakataas pa rin ang ating heavy rainfall warning which is yellow kaninang alas 8 ng umaga. At kasama pa rin po sa ating weather advisory dito sa Metro Manila ko. Kaya asahan po natin na mataas pa rin po yung tsansa ng halos same na mga pag-ulan naranasan natin kahapon within today up until tomorrow.
May iba pa ba tayo mga weather systems sa binabantayan, ma'am?
Yes po, no. Aside dun sa na-mention natin na dalawang LPA, sa labas po ng PAR po natin or sa labas ng ating monitoring domain ay meron pa po tayong binabantayan na isang bagyo kasi posible po na by next week ito yung magtutuloy ng mga paghatak ng habagat uli kaya patuloy din yung habagat dito sa may Luzon at Visayas by next week. Though sa nakikita pa naman po ng mga model ay kung i-compare natin yung mga naging paulan nung time ni Dolphin which is halos same track po sila nung posibleng maging bagyo na dadaan dito sa may northern part ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility ay medyo mas mababa naman. So hopefully magtuloy-tuloy po yung ganong pina-forecast ng model at sa nakikita po natin, westernmost part lang ng Luzon at Visayas, yung medyo posibleng malalakas na mga pag-ulan by next week ulit.
Well, Charmaine, have we seen the heaviest rainfall already? Nag-peak na ba ang rainfall or may darating pang mas mabigat na bagsak ng ulan?
So, sa nakikita po natin, kung magtuloy-tuloy yung ganong forecast po, more on yung time ni Dolphin, yung magiging pinakamaraming mga binigay ng mga pag-ulan po sa atin in a span of a week.
Charmaine, nabanggit mo nga yellow warning level ang nakataas sa Metro Manila pero nagre-range din yan sa orange at red sa Bataan, sa Cavite, Zambales. Pero para lang sa kaalaman ng ating mga kapatid, ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng bawat alert level at ano yung mga dapat nilang alalahanin habang ito ay nakataas?
Yes po, no. So, itong mga heavy rainfall warning po natin, nagsisignify yan kung gaano kalakas yung intensity ng mga pag-ulan na aasahan natin in a span of the next 3 hours. So, pag sinabi po natin na nakataas yung yellow, expect po na aabot ng 7.5 to 15 millimeters per hour. So, in context po, yung ganitong dami ng mga pag-ulan, halos aabot po yan ng mga 4 na timba ng tubig na ibubuhos sa 1 square meter. Tapos, pag naging orange, meaning mas tataas po, yung intensity aabot ng 15 to 30 millimeters per hour. So, yung ganong kadami naman po na tubig ay posibleng aabot sa almost 8 na timba ng tubig in a square meter. So, napakadami na po yan at delikado na po talaga. Especially nga na nakaranas pa ng mga pag-ulan nitong mga nakaraang araw pa. So, malakas or mataas talaga yung chances na mga pagbaha at pagguho ng lupa. At yung pinakamataas po natin na red, heavy rainfall warning ay posibleng umabot ng more than 30 millimeters per hour. So, imagine po more than 16 or more or less 16 na timba ng tubig sa isang square meter. So, napakadelikado po ng mga pwedeng maging impact po nito sa isang lugar.
Well, sa dami po ng inulan dahil nga po dito sa habagat, kamusta po ang lagay ng iba't ibang dams po natin ngayon?
So, nakikita po natin dito sa may part ng ating mga dam ay yung iba po nasa spilling level na, and especially dito sa may part ng Agno River Basin na patuloy pang inuulan sa ngayon. So, may mga nakataas na rin po tayo na gate dito sa may Buklaw Binga Dams. And in some parts pa po, nagdudulot na nga yan ng mga pagbaha, especially din sa mga downstream parts po nila. So, medyo nakikitaan na po natin ng mga pagtaas ng tubig, most parts ng ating dam, as well as mga pagbaha na rin sa mga areas sa malapit po nito.
Charmaine, aside from the dams, yung mga rivers din, may mga pinagmamasdan ba tayo? May mga nasa-threaten ba na mag-overflow?
Yes po, sa nakikita po natin, parang may mga naibabalita na rin po na yung pagtaas ng level ng tubig dito sa may part ng Marikina River. Tapos, nagtaas na rin po dyan ng critical level kahapon, And then, sa nakikita po natin, yung ibang mga river sa part din ng Ilocos, as well as dito sa may part ng Bulacan. So, medyo tumataas na rin po yung level po ng tubig po dyan, especially nga na nitong mga nakarang araw, patuloy din yung mga pag-ulan.
Alright, maraming salamat. That was Pag-asa Weather Specialist Charmaine Varilla. Our face-to-face classes are suspended today, August 18, in several areas due to the bad weather. And the suspension covers Metro Manila, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, and Benguet. No in-person classes as well in Zambales, Bataan, Tarlac, Pampanga, and Bulacan. Face-to-face classes are also suspended in Cavite, Batangas, Rizal, Laguna, and Occidental Mindoro.
Several parts of Metro Manila were submerged in floodwaters on Monday as torrential rains from the southwest monsoon or habagat overwhelmed roads and communities. Here's the report.
Several areas in Metro Manila were flooded on Monday as heavy rains from the southwest monsoon or habagat hit the metropolis. In Quezon City, Commonwealth Avenue resembled a river, while floodwaters reached knee-high levels in parts of Katipunan Avenue and Elliptical Road. Along E. Rodriguez Avenue, floodwaters reached chest-high, leaving some commuters and motorists stranded. In Barangay Tatalon, some residents had to be rescued as floodwater surged to nearly a person's height. The flooding was just as severe in Barangays Mariblok and Del Monte, where some residents turned to boats to get around. In Rojas District, floodwaters reached the second floor of some homes. In Manila, España Boulevard was flooded, with motorists struggling to make their way through the rising waters. Flooding was also reported along Avenida, Taft Avenue, and near Manila City Hall. In Makati, several jeepneys and motorcycles broke down as floodwaters covered the gutter along Hilpuyat Avenue. Traffic was also at a standstill along Buendia during the morning rush as floodwaters inundated parts of the road. In Marikina, floodwaters reached gutter deep levels in Provident Village. By Monday afternoon, the Marikina River had reached second alarm, prompting authorities to advise residents in low-lying areas to evacuate. 23 evacuation centers were open across the city. The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority, or MMDA, said more than 200 millimeters of rain fell across Metro Manila in just 5 hours.
Alright, so we've seen a lot of massive flooding na naman along the areas of Metro Manila and of course the nearby town provinces. And we've seen massive traffic buildup as well. Talagang lahat ng mga makita mo yesterday stuck sa traffic, yung mga commuters natin ang haba ng pila because late nag-announce ng traffic suspension yung ilan sa mga cities dito sa Metro Manila. And then sabay-sabay nag-announce ng suspension of
School
work.
classes, yeah.
Diba? So, by 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, everybody's on the road. That's why nakita mo talaga na aside from the baha, yung traffic buildup
Everyone
nandoon.
was trying to get home. Even the impeachment hearing ended early, and I think they also suspended the Senate's legislative hours also. So, yun na nga, sabay-sabay lahat ng tao sa daan. But also, even just around this area, you know, we've seen people lining up, trying to catch a ride home, which also begs the question, no, parang how do we make things easier for the commuter in situations like this? Kasi kawawa naman ng mga tao na baha na nga, hindi pa makauwi.
Yeah. And have you seen us in international news again? Yung public transportation natin in the bus na naka-feature tayo doon. Nasa loob ng bus yung mga commuters may baha.
Well, just when you thought you've seen everything, right?
Yeah.
Just when you thought things couldn't get any worse, now you have that video of water entering the bus. Meron nang nilalabas na nila yung mga jet ski nila. May nakita pa ako na kalabaw na yung ginagamit just to wade through the floodwaters, right? So, hanggang kailan ba natin sasabihin na Filipinos are resilient? At the end of the day, we know we deserve better. So, to all our leaders, mahiya naman kayo.
Yun nga eh. Di ba sabi nga nila parang every season, the same questions come back.
Yes.
Di ba? It rains, communities flood, and then people demand accountability, demand answers, and then politicians promise the same solutions. And then every time na babalik yung storm, the same problems face us. So, how do we break that cycle?
And we need to be wary of the word resilience, no? We need to pay attention to who keeps using that to describe Filipinos because it also begs the question, how much of our resilience is because of incompetence?
Alright, mahaba-habang usapin yan. Ano? At lahat tayo, we have something to say about it because this is not something that we joke about, di ba? Dahil talagang we demand accountability. But for now, joining us for the latest traffic situation along NLEX is Robin Ignacio, Assistant Vice President for Traffic Operations. Good morning, Sir Robin. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good morning, and good morning to all our televiewers of One News.
Right. Sir, it was indeed difficult, no, for everybody to start the week yesterday because of the heavy rains that caused massive floodings and traffic. So ngayon po, hingi po kami ng update sa inyo. What is the overall traffic situation along NLEX right now?
Yes, ma'am. The whole stretch of NLEX, let's include na rin po yung STEX na ino-operate po namin. And passable naman po to all types of vehicles, both directions. As of now, our traffic is fast-moving. Meron lang po tayong konting water panding dito sa sides ng San Simon area. Actually, last night, parang submerged up to 2 lanes, yung emergency lane and yung third lane, yung outermost lane. So what we did is we installed yung mga water barriers and then we pump out yung water. So now yung emergency lane na lang po yung dinadadaanan dito sa northbound ng San Simon. While yung San Simon to Laok area is meron pa rin pong though manipis lang naman yung tubig po dun sa lane 3, yung outermost lane in both directions. Other than that, wala pa tayong namomonitor na panding na, though there are still intermittent light rains along the stretch of NLEX and SCTEC.
Sir, kahapon we really saw heavy congestion, especially along EDSA, all the way doon sa NLEX exit nga po. Pero ano po ba
Yes
yung
po.
main factors that caused the heavy traffic buildup yesterday?
Yes, ma'am. Yesterday, I think around 12 noon, to be exact yata, yung monitoring ng aming traffic control room is 12:19. Water starts to build up dito sa may EDSA Balintawak area, under the bridge po ng EDSA. So, in just, I think in just less than 30 minutes, naging impossible to sedan or small vehicles, yung mga class 1 vehicles, yung ilalim po ng EDSA dito sa NLEX. And for 1 hour po, impossible po siya for all types of vehicles. After that, it suddenly subsided. And we attributed po dun sa pag-subside din po ng tubig around the vicinity. Kasi parang tumaas po siya bigla and then suddenly bumaba din po yung tubig. So in just 1 hour at about 2 o'clock, passable na po ulit to all types of vehicles. So what we did po is, tama po kayo, there was a slow-moving traffic or stranded actually at 12 at noontime na po, stranded dito sa southbound Manila bound direction po natin na around 10 kilometers po na slow-moving traffic. So we diverted them going Monumento. But apparently traffic is not moving kasi hindi nga po makagalaw because of the flooded areas na rin po na connecting to the area. So we diverted po dito sa Smart Connect po dito sa elevated expressway namin and some to Mindanao exit. So talagang umaba po ng more than 10 kilometers po yung slow-moving traffic natin. But since the water underneath the EDSA bridge in NLEX subsided quickly, after that nag-move na yung traffic natin and in just around 2 hours naging light traffic na po tayo ulit.
Well, sir, before we let you go, in case of emergencies along NLEX, who or how do people ask for help? Who do they reach out to?
Yes, aside from our roving patrols and personnel, they can call 135,000 po. Or they can also monitor or interact with our X account, yung Twitter po natin, at NLEX Expressways.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
morning po.
Thank you so much for your time, Robin Ignacio, Assistant Vice President for Traffic Operations.
Don't go away. Morning Matters will be back after a short break.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Vice President Sara Duterte herself allegedly ordered that her 500 million peso confidential funds be turned over to the head of her security group. And that was confirmed by former OVP Special Disbursing Officer Gina Acosta, testifying as a hostile witness in Duterte's impeachment trial. Under the Joint Circular Governing Confidential
Hindi ba-
Funds, the Special Disbursing Officer is supposed to have custody of the money. The funds should not be turned over to another person. But Acosta said she was following Duterte's instructions to give the cash to Colonel Raymond Lachica, then head of the Vice President's security group. She said Lachica was familiar with the confidential activities for which the funds would be used.
Sino ba ang head of agency na nag-utos sa'yo as the special disbursing officer na ibigay yung 125 million pesos in cold cash sa isang security officer, Colonel Raymond Dante Lachica?
Ang nag-utos po sa akin na i-release ang pera na 125M sa security officer na si Colonel Lachica ay si Ma'am Sara Duterte.
She gave two reasons, Counsel. Number one, that Colonel Lachica is the one who knows how to implement it. Tama po. And number two, dahil inutos sa kanya ng Vice President bilang head of agency. Tama po, Ma'am Gina?
Tama po, Your
Yun po
Honor.
Acosta said she turned over 125 million pesos to Lachica in 2022 and another 375 million pesos in 2023. And at one point, prosecutors also showed an AI-generated image to illustrate just how much 125 million pesos in cash would look like. Acosta even demonstrated the approximate size of the bags she said held the money as the defense raised repeated objections.
You tell the public, ma'am, if yung nakita mong 125 million pesos in cold cash.
Your Honor.
Wait. Not done.
Counsel, to finish the question,
Okay.
Attorney Bacuel.
Now, can you please confirm if the cold cash you saw 125 million pesos, do they look like that?
Is this AI, Your
I mean,
Honor?
Yes, of course. That is simulated.
Okay.
Is this
we don't,
AI?
wait. Because we don't have 125 million pesos in cold cash. So we had to resort to technology.
Gaano kataas po? Yung kamay niyo po sa baba, pakipat yan para makita po namin. Ganyan kataas at ganito kalapad? Kasing lapad po ng witness stand? 125 million po yan. Dalawang kahong ganyan.
Opo, Your Honor.
Now, in other news, parts of the city of Manila have been hit by flooding following hours of habagat rains, including areas along España Boulevard. Mobile journalist Marimon Reyes is live now from the area. Marimon, tell us what's happening.
Ladies, good morning. Kung kahapon binaha itong kahabaan ng España Boulevard, ngayon ay passable na. Parehong northbound yung Fairview, pa Commonwealth, and yung southbound, yung papunta naman ng Quiapo, Maynila. Maging sa paglilibot ng Manila LGU, yung lugar na yung kahabaan ng Recto Avenue, sa may Tondo, Manila, sa may Baseco area, humupa na yung tubig baha. And ang nakikita natin sa likuran natin, tulad nito, naglilinis yung ilan sa mga personnel ng lungsod, maging yung mga nasa lansangan, kanina nakita din natin, naglilinis, tinatanggal nila yung mga basurang kumbaga inano doon sa gilid ng daanan. Samantala, nag-anunsyo din ang lokal na pamahalaan na para sa leptospirosis lane o kaya naman yung pagbibigay ng doxycycline laban nga yung gamot para labanan itong leptospirosis, lahat ng health centers operational umaga hanggang tanghali. Pero yung itong leptospirosis lane naman, pagdating sa mga pampublikong ospital, nananatiling bukas naman siya. Halimbawa, sa ospital ng sa Palok, 24 hours bukas ito, yung outpatient bukas din hanggang bandang tanghali, pero mananatiling bukas lahat ng pampublikong ospital kung sakaling may daong nangangailangan ng regular check-ups. Pero sa mga local health centers, leptospirosis lang muna ang bukas hanggang tanghali. Balik sa inyo.
All right, thank you so much, mobile journalist Marimon Reyes.
Several areas in Bulacan remain flooded due to rains caused by the southwest monsoon. And for the latest, mobile journalist Daniel Dayao is on the ground. Daniel, gaano pa ba kataas ang baha dyan?
Yes,
Wow.
good morning Angela, Cheska, and Pauline. Nandito tayo ngayon nga sa Hagonoy, Bulacan kung saan na naging sentro ng flood control anomalies pati na rin ang naapektuhan talaga ng pagtaas ng tubig dala ng habagat. So sa ngayon, kung makikita nyo ay aabot na sa bewang yung tubig. Pero ang sabi kasi ng mga residente dito sa subdivision na ito ay hindi pa high tide, so low tide pa. So ina-expect na aabot ng 4.9 to 5 feet yung tubig dito. So far, may mga na-interview tayo na residente dito. Ang sabi nila ay 70% ay umalis na dahil nga hindi talaga humuhupa yung baha dito sa Merida Queens Home Subdivision. So dito, Cheska, ang pinaka sinasabi ng residente dito is ang pinaka problema nila ay yung paglabas at pagpasok ng bahay. Kasi kung makikita nyo, maraming basura dito and at the same time, madulas yung flooring. So, ang sabi kasi dito, stagnant na yung tubig at may mga nakausap din tayong residente, isa siyang ama at meron siyang anak na na-stroke. So, siya rin ay partially blind or blind yung kanyang kanang mata. So, ang sabi niya sa atin, talagang dagok to para sa kanila dahil yung pang araw-araw nilang paglabas ng bahay, yung pang araw-araw
Daniel,
na pagtulog, isa yun sa kanilang mga nagiging problema.
Daniel, can you hear me? Ayan. Daniel, nakakagulat talaga yung level ng baha sa likod mo, no? Kitang-kita rin namin dito. Kaya mo bang ipakita sa amin yung surrounding areas?
Okay. So sige, iikot ko na lang din kayo dito, Cheska. Medyo magdadahan-dahan lang tayo dahil madulas talaga yung
Ingat ka, Daniel,
tubig dito. Okay. So kung makikita nyo dito, parang mala-ghost town na talaga yung bahay, yung mga kabahayan. Dahil 70% ayon sa Pangulo ng subdivision ng Merida Subdivision ay talagang dumikas na. Kasi nga hindi talaga bumababa yung tubig dito at ang sabi nila sa akin ay yung mga bahay na iniwan daw ay nalooban pa. So isa talaga yon sa mga nagiging issue dito bukod sa basura, may mga nanloloob daw sa bahay na isa daw yon sa naging issue. Pero apart from that, kung makikita nyo, yung iba namang nandito is may mga aso pa, may mga alaga. Pero ito nga, nakausap natin, ito si Sir Dick Velasco. Siya yung nag-aalaga ng kanyang anak na na-stroke. So kanina, nakausap natin siya at isa nga sa kanyang mga naging sentimiento is that ilang taon na dito, Cheska, silang baha at wala pa rin daw nagagawa. So medyo nadudulas lang tayo. Okay, so sige, hindi na tayo pupunta or tataas sa bahay ni Sir Dick. So
ingat ka,
Sir
Daniel.
Dick, meron kasi siyang panawagan. Pakinggan natin ito, Cheska.
Nawa, ang panawagan ko, maayos yung ating problema sa pagbaha. Dahil maraming napipinsala ito. Katulad nito, maganda itong subdivision noon. Isa lang ito. Nanalo pa ito sa isa sa pinakamagandang subdivision actually. Tapos, ang panawagan ko nawa, yung mga pondo na binabayad ng mga taxes sa ating gobyerno, maibigay ng tama, mai-channel sa tamang pamaraan. So sa ganon, sa tingin ko, hindi naman po ako, yung mga tsaka yung proper engineering, hindi ko sinasabi, kasi yung planning ba na kahit may plano ka, kung nawawala naman yung pera mo, paano naman po yun? Kaya kailangan po, masasabi ko po, gamitin yung pondo sa tamang pamamaraan para hindi tayo nagsasuffer ng ganito, hindi lang dito sa aming subdivision po.
Thank you, Daniel. Sana marinig ang panawagan ni Sir Dick. Thank you so much, mobile journalist Daniel Dayo.
Now don't go away because Money Talks with Kathy Yang is up next to get you ahead of the markets. I'm Pauline Verzosa. Stay tuned to One News.
Welcome to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang, your intel on the Philippine markets and the economy. In the headlines, inundated roads and agricultural losses amounting to at least ₱1 billion. An overview of the effects of the monsoon and tropical cyclones in a few moments. No reprieve for motorists this Tuesday as fuel prices go up this week. And First Gen's value, ABS-CBN ₱6 billion refinancing race, and Ramon Ang's Lopez Inc. stake bring the group's next chapter in focus. A joint conversation on the Lopez Link transactions with investment coach Jun Tarobago and Ron Acoba of Trading Edge. Agricultural losses from the southwest monsoon or habagat and recent tropical cyclones have reached more than ₱1 billion. The Agriculture Department says the damage has affected more than 25,000 hectares of farmland and over 30,000 farmers and fishers across 7 regions. Rice accounted for the biggest share of the losses, followed by crops, corn, fisheries, and livestock. Agriculture Secretary Francisco Tiu Laurel Jr. says the damage could still grow as assessments continue.
Tingin namin tataas pa yan at 25,000 hectares na affected, 25,000 farmers. So hanggang Wednesday pa tayo rito or even up to Thursday. So yeah, we expect na lumaki yung damage.
The impact is also being felt in Benguet, where some farmers have dumped unsold vegetables after struggling to find buyers. The DA says heavy rains have slowed market demand, while washed-out roads and high transport costs have made it harder to move produce to trading centers. The Agri-Chief said the government is working on a long-term fix for this.
Ang long-term solution dyan ay pinondohan na namin for 2027, which we will be building big cold storage na in Benguet, sa katabi ng BAPTC doon, plus vegetable processing center. So that should be the long-term, medium to long-term solution. We hopefully, if ma-aprobahan yung NEP namin, yung mas malaking facility will be started next year. But this year pa lang, i-rehab na namin yung existing cold storages ng facility na yun.
Meanwhile, the MMDA says Monday's heavy rains overwhelmed drainage systems across Metro Manila. MMDA General Manager Nicolas Torres says around 201 millimeters of rain fell in just 5 hours, with 76 millimeters recorded in a single hour. He said the agency continues to improve drainage systems through desilting, dredging, and additional pumping stations. Torre also reminded the public to use the MMDA's 136 hotline for emergencies only.
We're continuously improving the efficiency of the drainage system. No? Pero kanina talagang kakaibang ulan talaga ang ibinigay sa atin. And even last week, kakaiba na rin yun eh. Mataas ang volume ng tubig na nabuhos last week.
No reprieve for motorists. A new round of fuel price hikes take effect today as the Department of Energy acknowledges it is seeing no end in sight for the Middle East crisis. Diesel prices go up this Tuesday by 3 pesos and 84 cents, gasoline by 2 pesos and 49 cents, and kerosene by 5 pesos. Energy Secretary Sharon Garin says the DOE will remain on high alert amid the oil crisis, even beyond the 1-year validity of the state of national energy emergency.
I don't have visibility of it finishing soon, let's say. Parang tumatagal pa siya eh. So that's why we're still on high alert as far as the oil crisis is, monitoring every week, coordinating with all the oil companies, because it seems like the problem is still persisting. The parties are not agreeing on anything. Baka mag-continue, kahit ma-lift na siya, baka yung presyo hindi pa kasing baba nung pre-war.
On Monday, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to attack Oman if it interferes in a potential deal with Iran over control of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran and Oman are closing in on a deal to manage the Hormuz Strait, including the formation of a new shipping map to govern traffic there. As of 8:30 a.m. Philippine time, Brent crude is trading at $91 a barrel, up 0.2%. West Texas Intermediate is sitting at $85 a barrel, up nearly 0.5%. The Middle East crisis has caused a drop in earnings of listed oil companies. Shell Pilipinas swung to a 2.72 billion peso net loss in the first half of 2026 from a 965.32 million net profit in the same period last year. While Petron recently reported a 27% decline in first half net income to 3.81 billion pesos from last year's 5.25 billion. Meantime, the NGCP has placed the Visayas grid under red alert from 3 to 9 p.m. today. The grid is also under yellow alert from 1 to 3 p.m. and 9 to 10 p.m. DOE Undersecretary Mario Marasigan said yesterday the resumption of coal-powered Thermo Visayas Inc. Unit 2 has been delayed to August 30 and Unit 1 to September 11. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas says inflation should ease gradually over the medium term, but risks to prices remain on the upside. BSP Governor Eli Remolona Jr. says the central bank is ready to take further steps if needed to bring inflation back to its 3% target. Inflation has averaged 5% so far this year, above the BSP's 2 to 4% target range. The central bank expects inflation to average 6.4% this year, before easing to 4.5% in 2027 and 3.1% in 2028. Remolona says higher global oil prices and rising inflation expectations remain key risks. The Monetary Board will hold its fourth regular policy review this year on August 27th, with two more to follow on October 22nd and December 17th. Lopez-led First Philippine Holdings has rejected an outside investor's offer to buy a portion of its stake in First Gen and take it out from the stock exchange. In a disclosure to the exchange yesterday, FPH said the offer by Colbert Kravis Roberts and Company, or KKR, does not represent First Gen's true value. KKR wants to acquire FPH's additional 8.43% stake in First Gen. The global investment firm already holds a 19.9% economic interest in the power firm. KKR is also proposing to launch a voluntary tender offer for First Gen's entire 11.67% public float at 35 pesos per share. Shares of First Gen tumbled 11.4% to settle at 27.20 in yesterday's close. Lopez Holdings slid 1.8% and FPH nearly 1%. Still in FPH, ex-Energy Secretary Rene Almendras declines the nomination as independent director of the Lopez firm. Almendras is one of 5 new names nominated to the board. The KKR news comes as BPI extended the maturity of its 5 billion peso loan to ABS-CBN to August 31st and Union Bank's 4.75 billion loan to September 30. ABS-CBN on Monday reported first-half net losses doubling to 1.83 billion pesos. Meantime, San Miguel Corp of New Lopez Inc. shareholder Ramon Ang has reported a 48% jump in first-half core profit as the group's diversified portfolio showed resiliency. Despite strong earnings, Ang says SMC will focus on cost discipline, improved efficiency, and long-term growth. The Lopez Group is at a critical point. First Philippine Holdings has rejected KKR's proposal for a larger First Gen stake, saying the offer doesn't reflect FGen's value. Ramon Ang now holds a 25.68% stake in Lopez Inc. Meanwhile, ABS-CBN is raising 6 billion pesos in new equity as it seeks a turnaround. BPI has extended the maturity of its 5 billion loan to August 31. Union Bank has extended its 4.75 billion loan to September 30, giving the company more time to complete its capital raise and negotiate longer-term refinancing. Ramon Ang now holds a minority stake in Lopez Inc., while ABS-CBN is raising 6 billion in fresh equity to address debt fund operations and support its content-led turnaround. The ABS-CBN capital raise also reorders ownership. 3 Lopez family branches putting in personal funds, INC Holdings entering as a new investor, and the issue of new shares will dilute existing shareholders. Well, with us now for more, Trading Edge Chief Investment Strategist Ron Acoba and Investment Coach June Tarobago. Well, it's good seeing you both. Welcome back to the program.
Morning, Kathy.
All right, we thought it might be more efficient getting the fuller picture with you both in just one conversation with the various moving parts here. Well, first with First Gen's value being defended, and then ABS-CBN's turnaround being funded, and Ramon Ang now inside Lopez Inc. So what is the market really buying into? Is it better governance, higher asset values, or a still unfinished reorganization of the Lopez Group? June.
Hi, Kathy. I think what we're witnessing is the Lopez Group transitioning from a family dispute to an ownership / governance reset. So Mr. Ang's just bought a quarter of the holding company, which sits above First Gen, EDC, and ABS. And then you have the KKR bid at 35 pesos per share for part of First Gen, and then First Holding saying that's not enough. So very interesting. And then First Gen falling sharply yesterday because the market realized the deal in itself is uncertain. That made it uncertain. So meanwhile, ABS is raising some cash, including 6 billion, I think, including 3.5 billion from a new outside investor, despite I understand losing 1.8 billion in the first half. So it's very interesting. The question now isn't simply who owns what, because there's many moving parts, like what you said. It's really who gets to decide what the assets are worth and what happens to them next.
Do you think KKR can return with a higher or restructured offer, June?
Probably. I think KKR knows it's the value of First Gen is much higher, but obviously the valuation there is real. What's missing, at least in my humble opinion, is someone with enough authority to say or to act on it. So it's not that the assets are not valuable. The value is definitely there, and we've established that. It's that it's unclear if anyone has enough authority to decide what happens to them. And Mr. Ang buying a quarter of the parent, not First Gen itself, so he can't call the shots alone. The family disputes need to be settled, and First Holdings just turned down one clean deal on the table. So KKR's offer, I think, Kathy, gave shareholders a price, gave shareholders a buyer, and a clear way to get paid. When First Holdings said no, it took all three off the table, at least momentarily, and nothing's replaced that yet. So that's what the market reacted to yesterday.
The value, as you mentioned, and I wanted to pick up on that, Ron. Do you think the rejection of KKR's bid show that First Gen is too strategic for the Lopez's to sell, or that FPH believes that a higher offer is possible?
Well, one thing is clear amidst all of these transactions that has been going on and the family disputes prior to that is that there's really an embedded value in the Lopez group of companies, which you can isolate. It's found in FGen and specifically in EDC. And even before, if you recall, even before KKR's proposal to buy an additional 8% stake in FGen, PT Barito out of nowhere came in and sent an unsolicited proposal to buy the entire FGen's crown jewel, EDC, for $5 billion, $7 billion, in fact, including EDC's debt. If I remember correctly, that alone, PT Barito's offer alone would translate to about 39 pesos per share, and we're talking about just the EDC. So between KKR's offer of 35 and PT Barito's unsolicited offer, between those two alone, face value, it appears that the PT Barito's offer is actually quite more attractive. But yeah, FGen and FPH is really seeing more value than what KKR put on the table. If you just read between the lines, KKR's offer essentially does not reflect FGen's true value, which means that it's potentially asking for more.
And as that is going on in the backdrop, we have ABS-CBN's financial test, Ron, the 6 billion peso equity raise. Does that mean the company has a credible path to refinance its debt, or does it only postpone the more difficult restructuring?
For me, it makes it easier to a certain degree, but then again, it's still hard because first and foremost, as of end of 2025, ABS has accumulated a retained deficit of almost 6 billion. So if we're basing it from that figure alone, the 6 billion capital infusion, face value would be enough to clear that deficit and put the company in a clear turnaround. But then again came the first half figures stating that ABS posted another loss of 1.8 billion. So that would actually make it even harder. And another issue is the ABS, BPI and Union Bank even if it postpone the maturity of their loans, ABS still have to pay them down almost 10 billion. So I don't know if my math is wrong, but 6 billion doesn't really cover a 10 billion in debt that they need to pay a few months down the road, diba? And plus the fact that they need to turn their operations profitable to really jumpstart everything. So
which really leads us to a balancing act. And I wanted to pose the next question to June. That loss widening for ABS to 1.83 billion. How much of the 6 billion peso raise do you think should go to debt repayment versus content and operations, June? And what would be the risk of getting that balance wrong?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, Kathy, because this is all about asset allocation. It seems on that point that you mentioned, definitely a lot has to go into the business, or at least a more efficient business and a changing business at that, going into digital. But I think what's more fascinating, I think Ron covered the numbers very well already. I think if we zoom out of this, what's most fascinating for me is that this isn't. It's like what's behind it. This isn't a family exiting the business as people originally thought with regard to the Lopez Group. It's a family that seems to be sorting out, funding what they still believe in, and letting go of what they don't. So Gabby Lopez sold out of the parent company. His branch is still funding ABS-CBN. That's not retreat. That's asset allocation. That's a group deciding piece by piece what stays and what doesn't. So this is no longer, again, as mentioned earlier, simply a Lopez family story. It's an ownership and governance reset. So I think when going back to the numbers, one thing worth noting also is that someone just put in 6 billion into a company that lost 1.8 billion in 6 months. That's not a bet on this year. Going back to your question, Kathy, it's a bet on where ABS-CBN is headed. They see something that people are wondering what they're seeing, but they see something there. And another one is who's behind the 3.5 billion is also another thing worth asking, because up until this transaction happened, I wasn't very familiar with the new outside shareholder ABS-CBN got on board. So plot thickens.
The plot thickens. Who do you think it is, though?
I have no evidence to
Not
surmise
yet.
who
But
it was.
I wanted to pull in the governance issue that you mentioned early on and then bring back Ang. Does Ang's minority position at Lopez Inc. have any immediate bearing on ABS's funding options? Or do you think investors should treat his stake and the media company's refinancing as separate issues? June.
Sorry, I didn't get the question clearly. Mr. Ang's 25%?
Correct. And do you
stake?
think that investors should treat his stake and the media company's refinancing as separate issues?
They're technically separate, but we know that Mr. Ang, along with MVP, had aspirations. I think in July they were asked if they want to take over ABS. So I mean, there's so many different moving parts. A lot of which there is no evidence to comment on, but there's a lot of interesting parts to this story. So I'll leave it at that, Kathy.
All right. Well, we got a few more weeks to go. I mean, Ron, to you, what do you think the market should watch out for in, say, the next 4 to 6 weeks to really know whether the Lopez Group is gaining stability?
What is actually a bit interesting for me to add to what we were recently discussing is that the 3.5 billion of INC holdings, diba? Interestingly, it's the same amount as the rescue package initially that was proposed or supposedly led by Ramon Ang. So it's just, is it a coincidence that the INC investment is also 3.5, whereas the previous supposed the investment led by Ramon Ang was also 3.5? So could it be that Ramon Ang was behind the Fortman client behind the INC? We don't know, but we could be surprised in the next few weeks if we see some color on that.
Where story's just starting, plot thickening there. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Really appreciate your insights. Together, Ron Acoba of Trading Edge and investment coach June Tarobago. You're watching Money Talks. Coming up, digital payments accounted for 64.7% of total Philippine retail transactions last year. And we get an update on today's weather after the break. Keep it here on One News. Nawawala-wala eh. Welcome back to Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. The Senate Impeachment Court has postponed the trial of Vice President Sara Duterte today due to forecast heavy rains and flooding from the southwest monsoon or habagat. The trial was set to resume the House prosecution's direct examination of Gina Acosta, a former special disbursing officer of the Office of the Vice President. Acosta is testifying as a hostile witness in the impeachment case. In Monday's hearing, she said Duterte personally ordered her to turn over 500 million pesos in confidential funds to Colonel Raymond La Chica, then head of the VP's security group. Under the rules governing confidential funds, the special disbursing officer is supposed to keep custody of the money.
Sino ba ang head of agency na nag-utos sa'yo as the special disbursing officer na ibigay yung 125 million pesos in cold cash sa isang security officer, Colonel Raymond Dante La Chica?
Ang nag-utos po sa akin na i-release ang pera na 125M sa security officer na si Colonel La Chica ay si Ma'am Sara Duterte.
She gave two reasons, Counsel. Number one, that Colonel La Chica is the one who knows how to implement it. Tama po. And number two, dahil inutos sa kanya ng Vice President bilang head of agency. Tama po, Ma'am Gina?
Tama po, Your
Yun po
Honor.
yun.
Habagat continues to bring rains over parts of the country, while Pag-asa is also monitoring two low-pressure areas. Our mobile journalist, Denise Valdez-Sancho, is reporting live from Pag-asa headquarters. So what's the latest weather outlook, Denise?
Kathy, good morning. As of this morning, the southwest monsoon or habagat continues to bring rain to many parts of Luzon and the Visayas region, with the western section, including Metro Manila, expecting the heaviest rainfall. In our interview with Pag-asa earlier, it was explained that two low-pressure areas are currently being monitored in the country. The LPA, inside the Philippine Area of Responsibility, has the highest chance of developing into a tropical depression within the next 24 hours. It is currently about 1,140 kilometers east of northern Luzon and is moving northwestward toward the vicinity of Taiwan. Now, for Metro Manila, moderate to at times heavy rains are expected from this morning until the afternoon. Pag-asa says heavy rainfall is also possible in central Luzon as well as Calabarzon. The LPA is also helping draw the Habagat toward it, keeping the monsoon stronger over Luzon. Pag-asa expects Habagat to remain active until around Thursday, and by then rainfall may ease over Metro Manila and southern Luzon, although light to moderate heavy rains or moderate rains rather may still occur. Now, the public is urged to keep monitoring Pag-asa's heavy rainfall warnings and to stay alert for possible floods and landslides. Kathy.
Okay, thank you so much. Denise Valdez-Sancho live from Pag-asa. Now, digital payments now account for nearly 65% of retail transactions in the Philippines by volume in 2025, up from 57% in 2024. BSP Deputy Governor Zino Abinoja says the share surpassed the central bank's 50 to 54% target, continuing a steady rise from 20% in 2020. He said growth was driven by more digital payment accounts and businesses accepting electronic payments. QRPH transactions also outpaced debit and credit card transactions for the first time in 2025, with about 2.5 billion transactions worth more than 1 trillion pesos. Bangko Sentral Governor Eli Remolona Jr. said wider interoperability is helping more consumers, merchants, and financial institutions join the digital payment system. Let's take a quick check on the Philippine peso and see how it's opened this Tuesday. It is weaker, 61.63 to the dollar. The peso weakened by 4.5 centavos yesterday to settle at 61.495 against the greenback, its worst finish in 2 weeks. The depreciation comes after the Bangko Sentral signaled the possibility of holding interest rates. Traders also await new developments in the Middle East. Checking in on the markets overseas, U.S. stock futures little changed in overnight trading. The Nasdaq up less than 0.1%. The Dow falls less than 0.1%, and the S&P 500 is trading near the flat line. Asian markets are a mixed bag in early Tuesday trading. South Korea's Kospi is in positive territory as it resumes trading following a holiday, and the Kospi rises 2.8%. ASX 200 ticks up less than 0.1%, and Japan's Nikkei 225 sheds 0.2%. U.S. equities fell this Monday as the impasse in the Middle East peace talks offset AI stock gains. The Dow and the S&P slid 0.5%, and the Nasdaq shed 0.33%. Chip and memory stocks surged Monday after Bloomberg reported Anthropic's second quarter revenues grew 14-fold. But broader concerns over economic momentum continue to weigh on investors. And Philippine markets dipped below the 6,300 level yesterday over a lack of fresh leads. The benchmark PSEI fell 0.5% at settling at 6,261. Total value turnover thinned to 4.59 billion pesos, its fifth lowest level year to date, signaling a continued lack of conviction. Despite this, advancers edged out decliners 113 to 85. The broader all-shares index slid nearly 0.2% with the sectoral gauges a mixed bag. 10-year government bond yields ticked down to 7.316%. In corporate news, the Philippine Stock Exchange expects capital raising to reach about 203.4 billion pesos this year, with 2 IPOs still in the pipeline. GCash operator Mint could raise up to 92.3 billion pesos, while PLDT's Vitro is eyeing up to 24.2 billion pesos. Double Dragon plans to open 13 new properties and outlets in the second half after core net income surged nearly 162% in the first 6 months. The openings include new city malls, Central Hub warehouses, Mart supermarkets, and Hotel 101 properties in Davao, Cebu, and Japan. And Shell Pilipinas swung to a 4.33 billion peso net loss in the second quarter as rising global fuel costs squeezed margins. First half losses reached 2.72 billion pesos, even as net sales climbed on higher pump prices. And that is it for Money Talks. I'm Kathy Yang. Catch us again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Have a great day ahead.
Good morning mga kapatid. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. The southwest monsoon continues to pound parts of Luzon, triggering floods, damaging infrastructure, and stranding motorists in several provinces. Here's the report.
The southwest monsoon battered several provinces in Luzon, triggering floods and damaging infrastructure. In Tarlac City, a large portion of a dike in Barangay San Isidro, Zone 1, gave way after hours of continuous rain. Muddy water could also be seen rushing through the nearby river. In Pangasinan, floodwaters reached waist-deep levels in some barangays in the town of Aguilar. Farmlands were submerged, while floodwaters also entered several homes. In Morong, Rizal, fast-moving, muddy floodwaters caused difficulties for motorists. Vehicles that braved the floods moved slowly and cautiously to avoid accidents. Meanwhile, in Dinalupihan, Bataan, some roads turned into virtual rivers as floodwaters rose. One flooded tunnel was left impassable to motorists. And in Pampanga, widespread flooding left many motorists stranded.
Joining us for the latest on Calabarzon region is Mark Rafael Sasutona, Information Officer of OCD Region 4A. Good morning, Sir Mark. Thank you for joining us on Morning Matters.
Yeah, Sir Ma, magandang umaga po sa akin.
And Sir Mark, gaano naka-widespread yung flooding across Calabarzon ngayon?
Ma'am, per latest update po namin, meron tayong mga monitored na flooded areas po actually. Since kagabi po ay naka-red rainfall warning na po sa part ng, specifically in Batangas. May mga monitored po tayo sa part ng Batangas, sa Batangas City, Taysan, Lemery, Tuwi, Balayan, Calaca, Dian, and Bawan. This is in coordination with our Provincial DRM Council, Provincial DRMO na latest update. Then, marami rin tayong mga monitored po sa part ng Rizal. Doon po sa Teresa, though, if po subsided na, may reported po kagabi. And definitely po doon sa Morong, may 4 na barangay po tayong binabantayan. And Rizal, sa Montalban po, San Mateo, Taytay, Antipolo, and also Cainta. Sa Laguna rin po, meron tayong monitored sa San Pedro City and Santa Maria.
Sa ngayon po, sir, ilan po ang pamilya or individual na apektado po nitong malakas na ulan dala po ng habagat at ilan po ang mga nasa evacuation center?
Right now, ma'am, actually yung aming latest situation, yung situation report po namin number 17, based po ito kasi sa Dromic, but definitely ma'am, meron po mga changes, specifically po kagabi na may mga nag-evacuate po dun sa, specifically sa part ng Rizal, kung saan medyo malalakas talaga po yung pagulan. But definitely, kung kagabi po, meron tayong, as per latest update po, ay meron tayong 242 families and with 968 individuals sa 21 evacuation centers. But definitely, it will also go up po based po sa kagabing update kasi yung drone report naman po ng ating DSWD is centralized po siya. So, yung magiging update po namin ngayon, mas tataas po siya from this.
Sir, pagdating naman po sa mga numero, meron na po ba nga na-report na mga nasugatan, nawawala, o kahit mga casualties po?
Ma'am, yung last din na coordination with you po, nung na-interview din po ako, meron pa rin po tayong reported po na for verification, 7 po from Rizal, Batangas, may mga sa Rodriguez po, Batangas City, Antipolo City, Santa Teresa City sa Batangas, and Binangonan. This is subject for MDM validation pa rin po. So meron lang po mga cases kasi na hindi related, kaya ibina-validate po namin. Then sa injured po, may 2 pa rin pong reported from Cavite and Rizal, and yung missing po, may 1 po tayo from Batangas. For validation po ito, ma'am. Yung casual.
Well, sir, with regards sa evacuation centers, kamusta naman po ang mga established evacuation centers, and are they at capacity or may space pa naman po?
From the latest update, ma'am, kasi katulad po ako po during kagabi, diretso po hanggang ngayon. Bali, monitor naman po namin yung mga pag-evacuate po na ating mga mga LGUs, local government unit, and based po dun sa update lagi po namin na kung may kailangan po dun sa ating evacuation centers, mag-update po sa amin. But definitely po, kanina po pag-update po namin, wala pa naman po so far na hindi po kayang ma-manage pa ng local government unit. So I think sufficient pa po yung ating mga local government unit na mga evacuation centers.
Sir, meron po bang provisions for the elderly, infants, mga PWDs?
Ma'am, lagi po yung kinoconsider po natin, specifically po, during po dun sa ating evacuation, yung mga location po. And with the local evacuation centers, ma'am, meron po yung designated facilities po.
Sir, para po mas mabigyan po ng bigger picture, maintindihan po ng ating mga kapatid, ano po ba ang nagkukos, saan po nanggagaling ang tubig ng mga pagbaha dito po sa area sa Calabarzon? Meron po ba tayo mga flood control projects na nasira dahil nga po dito sa malakas na ulan, dala po ng habagat? At meron po ba mga flood control projects din po na supposedly ay gumagana po, pero dahil po sa mga issues ngayon ay wala pong gumagana na flood control projects?
Ma'am, sa latest update po namin, yung pinaka-update po with the roads and bridges, yung mga doon lang naman po yung last na update po namin sa Batangas City na mayroon kami monitor po dun na hindi po passable for vehicles po dahil po yung sa na po niya structure. But definitely, ma'am, yung mga water tributaries po kasi na minomonitor po natin ay mga spillways, specifically po dun sa mga bodies of water na yung mga ilog, yung mga malalapit po. May mga residente po rin talaga tayo nakatira po malalapit doon. And contributing factor po that we are situated in Laguna Lake, and also yung sa part po ng Cavite naman. So ngayon po, ma'am, wala pang update po for Cavite ng flooded areas. But definitely, ma'am, pinoconsider natin na since sila po, may mga areas po tayo, specifically yung mga Bacoor, yung mostly malalapit po sa Manila Bay. Naman po. So for latest update, wala naman pong concern with regards po dun sa mga flood control projects natin, and monitor din po namin yung mga updates po dun sa existing pong mga interventions po natin.
Pero ang malaking concern kasi dyan, sir, is buong linggo pa rin magpapaulan itong habagat. At alam naman natin na ang rehiyon ng Calabarzon ay tinamaan na nga rin nitong mga pag-ulan noong mga nakaraang linggo. So may enough provisions pa rin po ba for the coming days?
Yes, ma'am. Activated naman din po yung ating sa response po natin, yung DSWD po natin, kausap po natin lagi with regards po dun sa mga stockpiling po. And prior po this, nag-prepare na rin naman po yung ating RDRMC with regards po dun sa mga, siyempre po, during peace time, and yung mga tag-init pa, we are prepositioning mga non-food items, food and non-food items na rin po with the help ng ating DSWD. And I think sufficient pa po dun sa mga areas po. And with the assistance naman po coming from the national government interventions, mabilis na po kasi yung proseso ngayon since may coordination po directly na with the local to region and also national. And nakatutok rin ma'am, actually nakamonitor din kami through our regional virtual emergency operations center, and also nakamonitor din po kami dun sa mga guidance or guidance po coming from the NDRMC. So as of now ma'am, sufficient pa naman yung ating mga resources or stockpiling, and if ever na mga ilangan ma'am, I think we have our means of communicating with our mga regional line agencies at yung ating RDRMC member agencies para po dun sa mga other means of resources as of now.
Sir, as Pauline mentioned nga po no, na may mga pinagmamasdan pa ang pag-asa na LPAs. So at this point, may mga preventive measures pa po ba or are all the measures responsive?
As of now, ma'am, actually, ina-enhance din po natin yung capacity ng ating mga during this year, actually, ina-enhance na natin yung capacity ng ating mga local government units to the assistance po na pinaprovide din ng OCD at RDRMC. So, looking forward, ma'am, kung meron pong mga future na mga pinakailangan, nagko-convene naman po and may direct coordination po with the member agencies po natin para mas mabilis po yung support din specifically dun sa mga heavily hit po natin na mga LGUs. And then also ma'am, kung may mga pangangailangan po, we made sure ma'am na with the help of our RDMC member agency at aming regional director po, nagkakipag-coordination directly po dun sa ating mga concerned agencies para po mas mabilis support at approach din po dun sa mga pangangailangan po ng ating agencies.
Sir Mark, mabilis na lamang po, tanong ko lang po kung meron na po tayong data doon sa ilang pamilya pa po ba ang mga nakatira sa within the danger zones at nailikas na po ba sila? How is the OCD Region 4A coordinates po sa local government to make sure na hindi na po talaga sila mapabalik doon para every time po may mga ganitong pangyayari, hindi na po sila parating inililikas?
Part kasi siya ma'am ng mas mahabang intervention po natin, specifically yung mga programs and projects ng ating mga local government unit and also the national. So when it comes sa Office of Civil Defense, ma'am, what we can do po sa part ng RDRMC is to ensure po na i-align po yung mga pangailangan ng ating mga nasa communities at risk po. Specifically po, yung paulit-ulit na lumilika. So, may mga interventions na naman, ma'am. But definitely po, medyo mahaba-haba po talagang pakikibakayan kasi marami po tayong mga factors na kinoconsider. And also, siyempre, ma'am, yung fund source ng gagamitin po natin. Specifically, ang NDREAM fund po or yung National DRM fund na ginagamit po natin or ay meron pong pinaglalaan specifically yung business funds operations and naghahati-hati pa po yung mga member agencies po.
All right, thank you Mark Rafael Sasutona, Information Officer of OCD Region 4A.
Thank you po ma'am.
Now, meanwhile, water levels remain high at the Matayin River along the Subic-Olongapo Arch in Zambales this Tuesday. And for the latest, we now have mobile journalist Arles de los Santos reporting live on the ground. Arles, kamusta na ang sitwasyon dyan?
Yes, pwede na dito nga tayo ngayon sa Subic-Olongapo dito sa Zambales kung saan ngayon ay nananatiling walang pasok ang mga privado at pampublikong paaralan. At particularly, ngayong araw nandito tayo sa may Subic Freeport Zone kung saan itong kanang bahagi ng kalsada ay nananatiling may kaunti pa rin na tubig baha. Kaiba pa yan doon sa mga komunidad na nakaranas ng mga pagbaha kahapon bunsod ng walang patid na pag-ulan. No? Habang ang Matian River Pulin ay nananatiling mataas ang level matapos nga itong umapaw kahapon. No? At yung mga komunidad na kalapit dito ay putik ang sumulubong kaninang umaga, kaya naman kanya-kanyang pala sila para nga maalis itong mga putik na ito at makalakad at makatungo sila no, sa kanilang paroroonan sa kanilang mga komunidad nang walang anumang aberya. No? At kanina po rin ay tinanong natin kung ano nga ba yung kanilang mga diskarte pagdating dito sa ganitong panahon ng habagat. Ayon sa mga residente, bagaman mabilis yung mga pagulan sa kanila dahil may ilan ng mga nasa tabi ng mga ilog o malapit sa mga dagat, mabilis naman daw pumupa ang mga baha. No? Pero sa kabila niyan, Pulin, ay nagkaroon ng bahagyang landslide sa isang bahagi ng Baloy, Barreto, Zambales, punsod ng malakas sa pag-ulan at nangyari yan kahapon, August 17, no? Alas 6 ng gabi. Natapunan yung dalawang motor habang nasira naman ang unahang bahagi ng isang fruit delivery motorcycle dahilan nga para magtaka at mangina o tila man lumo ang isang fruit vendor, no, dahil ito lang daw yung kanilang tanging source of income at pwedeng mapagkakakitaan. No? Kaya sa ngayon hindi raw pa nila sigurado kung paano didiskarte. Kayong hindi raw ito yung unang beses na gumuho itong bahagi na ito no, ng Baloy Barreto Highway. Noong mga nakaraang taon daw, parang 2019, bagyang gumuho na rin daw ito. No? Pero ngayon nga, na pati yung wall sa gilid or malapit sa mismong pinagtatayuan ng kanilang stall ay bumigay na. Ang gagawin daw nila ngayon baka maglibot-libot na lamang muna sila para makapenta ng nanitira nilang mga produkto at kung maaari, hindi na nga sila bumalik doon. No? Pero syempre sa ngayon, pansamantalang remedyo pa lamang daw yan, pero susubukan pa rin nila na makatawid ng kanilang mga pang-araw-araw. Huli.
Arles, dyan kung saan ka nakatayo, hanggang saan umabot yung baha? At as of today, passable na ba halos lahat ng mga daan dyan?
Sa ngayon po dito sa Subic Bay Freeport Zone, no? Dito naman so far yung pinaka-gutter doon sa kabila, yung pinakamababa, no? Pakita natin. Ito kapag dumadaan yung mga sasakyan dito sa bahagi na yan, hindi naman ganoon kataas yung tubig baha, no? Pero yung kabilang lane lamang yung may nananatili pa na tubig, no? Pero yung ilang mga kalsada na ating nadaanan po no, sa kahabaan ng Zambales Highway, so far, no, passable naman ang lahat. Sinusubukan pa nga natin actually maghanap ng mga komunidad na nanatiling may mga tubig baha, no? Pero syempre, isa pa lamang na bahagi itong Olongapo ng Zambales, no? Bibisitahin din natin yung Santa Fe, yung Batoon or yung other parts, no, doon sa may Diwa, maging yung San Felipe, Santa Fe, no, dahil doon nakaranas din ng ilang mga pagbaha. No, habang kahapon po rin nakalimutan natin banggitin kanina, no, na nagkaroon din ng bahagyang pagkabuwal, yung tinatawag nga doon na retaining wall sa kahabaan ng pagitan ng Barangay Kabalan at Old Kabalan, no, kung saan dahil nga daw sa patuloy na pagulan kahapon at maraming tubig ang bumagsak no sa lupa, lumampot daw yung pundasyon nito dahilan nga para bumigay yung kalsada at isarado ito pansamantala. No? Pero sa ngayon, wala munang residente na pinapalapit doon. Mayroong bahay na nadamay na gumuho. Pero so far, luckily, no, wala naman daw pamilya na nakastay noong nangyari nga ang pagbuho.
Alright, thank you very much for those updates. It was mobile journalist Arles de los Santos.
House Prosecutor Bienvenido Abante Jr. is calling on Vice President Sara Duterte to personally face her impeachment trial. Abante questioned Duterte's whereabouts as flooding hit several parts of Luzon, claiming she was traveling abroad while the country dealt with the bad weather. He also criticized her recent public activities and urged her to appear before the impeachment court and explain her side. Abante made the remarks after day 16 of the trial, which continued to tackle the alleged misuse of OVP confidential funds.
Baha na sa buong Luzon. Anong ginagawa ng ating Vice President? Nagpupunta sa iba't ibang bansa. Saan siya? Nasaan siya ngayon? Gusto kong tanungin, nasaan pa siya ngayon? Meron akong nakita na video. Sumasayaw pa siya. Nasaan pa siya ngayon?
Well, as we know, the Vice President is not legally required to appear before the Senate impeachment court. And we did speak to Ronald Llamas. I think was that yesterday?
That was just
Okay, that was just yesterday. My brain. But also, Sir Ronald said that it would be disastrous if the VP did appear before the impeachment court. So again,
Especially at this stage of the trial where the witness yesterday, Gina Acosta, already testified that the instructions came from the Vice President herself. I think that's a crucial development in this impeachment case, because she didn't deny that the instructions came from Vice President. And remember last week, Senator Amy Marcos was saying the accountable officer here is the Special Disbursing Officer. But now you have the witness saying it came from the head of the agency, which is Vice President Sara Duterte.
But I want to go back dun sa pinag-usapan kanina about where is VP Sara amidst all of these things that are happening, especially the impeachment trial. And I remember talking to Attorney Tranquil Salvador, who was part of the counsel of late Justice Corona. I also asked him about it. Is it possible? Is it strategically okay na mag-appear yung mismong akusado doon sa kanyang trial. And sinabi nga niya, kung siya lang masusunod at that time during the Corona impeachment trial, ay ayaw niya. But at that time kasi, si mismong late Justice Chief Corona ang nagsabi na gusto niya. Pero kasi sinasabi nga ng mga lawyers kasi kapag ganyan, yung strategy nila, dapat hindi do talaga nilalagay sa witness stand yung mga akusado. Because hindi mo rin alam kasi kung ano yung maaari nilang masabi. But going back to the day 17, yesterday of the impeachment trial, and we've seen nga yung mga sinabi ni Gina Acosta. But this is not actually new anymore because she already said this during the Good Governance Committee
2024.
na 2024 yun, na sinabi nga niya, it was VP Sara who handed over or instructed her to hand over the confidential fund doon sa sa kanyang head of security. Pero makikita mo also na parang maawa ka din sa kanya at some point na nakikita mo na talagang she was just following instruction. And ano yung magiging accountability niya dito in this whole equation. We'll see what's going to happen kasi magka-cross-examine pa ang defense sa kanya, 'di ba? So, yun ang ating aalamin pa.
All right, we still have more matters to discuss after this quick break. Keep it here on One News.
Good morning. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
Some lawmakers are pushing back against funding flood control projects again next year. At the start of House budget deliberations, it was revealed that 107.4 billion pesos has been allocated for flood control projects in 2027. Lawmakers also learned that no flood control projects were listed for the Davao region. ACT Teachers Representative Antonio Tino said the government should instead increase funding for classroom construction. The Department of Budget and Management, however, said fund allocations also depend on an agency's capacity to implement projects and spend its budget.
Ngayong second half pa lang po sila nag-uumpisang ma-implement yung kanilang nakalaang budget po para sa kanila na inaasahan pong magsispill over hanggang 2027. Ang pangalawa pong mahalagang factor, Madam Chair, Your Honor, is by 2027, meron din po tayong isang package ng classroom infrastructure, school infrastructure project na tinatarget po nating ma-implement through a public-private partnership.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines says it will review its policies on military awards and badges for reservists following questions over the decorations worn by former Congressman Mikey Romero. For more details, we have mobile journalist Jazz Paredes. Jazz, go ahead.
Yes, Angela, inulan nga ng batikos ito nga iginawad na military award kaya dating Congressman Mikey Romero bilang isang reservist sa Philippine Air Force. At nangyari yan matapos ngang kumpirmahin itong promotion ni dating Congressman Mikey Romero bilang Brigadier General ng Philippine Air Force. At nung araw na iyon ay nagpa-picture siya kay AFP Chief of Staff Antonio Navarrete at napansin ng mga netizen itong kanyang uniforme ay tila mas marami pa nga itong kanyang award kumpara sa Chief of Staff. At kapansin-pansin din na meron siya nitong gold cross na iginagawad lamang daw doon sa mga lumaban sa mga matitinding gera kagaya naman sa NPA, Abu Sayyaf. And from what we know, ito yung pangatlo sa pinakataas na medal na maaaring igawad sa isang Armed Forces of the Philippines. At sa ngayon, Angela, nagbigay ng pahayag nga itong Armed Forces of the Philippines spokesperson na kanilang ang i-review yung kanilang existing policies patungkol sa pag-award nga. At dahil kanila ding sinabi na dapat itong award ay may proper documentation or general command upang ma-justify nga itong paggagawad ng award sa sino mga personnel. Sa ngayon, ang pahayag dyan ni dating Congressman Mikey Romero, according sa kanya, ay ito ay nag-demonstrate siya ng commitment to tangible actions. Na kino-author niya yung 2018 AFP salary standardization, finacilitate niya yung acquisition ng 3 C-130J aircraft for the Philippine Armed Force. At sinabi niya na meron siyang field service and relief through more than 60 voluntary engagement. In a moment, magsisimula na rin itong press briefing with the AFP, Philippine Air Force, Philippine Hukbong Katihan ng Pilipinas. At mamaya ay abangan natin kung merong additional statement o ano ba yung update patungkol dun sa kanilang pag-review nga ng existing policies pagdating sa pag-award ng merits at awards sa mga personnel ng Philippine National ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. Angela.
Jazz, para mas malinaw lang sa ating viewers, ano ba yung pinaka-existing guidelines sila ngayon pagdating dyan sa pag-award nga sa mga reservists? Because like for example, yung ribbon na nabanggit mo kanina, binibigay lamang yun dun sa mga talagang gumagapang sa putik di ba? So ano yung guidelines nila doon na paano nila nabigyan itong si former Mikey Romero ng mga ganitong klaseng medals?
So yun, Angela, hindi pa natin nalalaman yung buong detalye doon sa particular na award doon sa Gold Cross dahil nga mataas itong katungkulan na maka-award or makuha nitong medal na ito. Pero ang alam natin, ang eligible nito is members of the AFP na enlisted and serving active duty nga sa Philippine Army, Philippine Navy, or Philippine Marines or Philippine Air Force. And their services are also qualified if they documented meritorious acts of bravery during an actual combat or authorized military operations. Which is ito nga rin yung kine-question ng karamihan dahil hindi pa ma-identify if itong si dating Congressman Mikey Romero nga ba ay he served during an actual combat, which is usually na-award nga lang ito sa reservist kapag nagsilbi sila sa isang labanan. Pero we can say for sure kung ano ba talaga yung proseso, ano ba yung other criteria para ma-award yung mga ibang medals na meron si dating Congressman Mikey Romero, but he claims nga na he had this through tangible actions, and he was awarded with this by a certain committee na kanya daw pinagtrabahuhan at inaward sa kanya nang hindi niya hiningi. But through his actions nga, kaya siya na-awardan nito nga mga awards na meron siya. But maybe later we will be given further details and clarification kung bakit nga ba na-awardan siya nitong Gold Cross Medal and other medals that he has as of now, and what other criteria should be reviewed. Dahil nga kung may problema dun sa existing policies, then yun nga, merong nababatikos nga rin ng mga dating nagsilbi sa Armed Forces of the Philippines. So we will be gathering further details tungkol dyan later on, Angela.
Wala, abangan natin yung paglilinaw ng AFP dyan. For the meantime, maraming salamat, mobile journalist Jazz Paredes.
Vice President Sara Duterte has again sued her self-proclaimed bagman Ramil Madriaga for perjury. Duterte personally filed the complaint before the Taguig City Prosecutor's Office earlier today, accompanied by her lawyer Paulo Panelo. This is the VP's second perjury complaint against Madriaga, following the first one filed in March. Duterte has denied Madriaga's claims that he delivered cash on her behalf, including allegations that she accepted money from POGO operators and drug lords. She accused Madriaga of spreading false statements in an effort to undermine her 2028 presidential run.
All right, and now let's check the situation again on the ground as floodwaters have reached waist-deep levels along E. Rodriguez Avenue in Quezon City on August 17, stranding some motorists and commuters. And for the latest, we now go to mobile journalist Amy Atienza. Amy, kamusta ng sitwasyon dyan?
Yes, good morning, Pauline. Kahapon nga ay mataas yung level ng tubig dito sa may E. Rodriguez Avenue, pero ngayon ay hindi na rin naman nag-subside na yung tubig. Right now the weather is also very calm. Medyo mahangin lang pero wala nang ulan na nararanasan, no. And when we asked some of the residents dito mismo sa area, sabi nila at around 8 p.m. ay ulan na lang din talaga yung panakanakang ulan na lang din yung nararanasan nila, pero unti-unti nang bumababa yung baha at nung pagkagising nila, hindi na nga din mataas yung level ng tubig. At dito sa kinatatayuan ko, Pauline, ito mismo ay gilid na to ng EDSA, no, at makikita din natin yung traffic situation kung saan passable na talaga lahat ng roads at hindi din ganun ka-heavy yung traffic. And dito sa medyo side na to, ito yung pakaliwa kasi papunta sa may East Avenue. And dito sa East Avenue, naranasan din nila yung sobrang taas na level ng tubig kahapon daw at around 10:30 in the morning ay talagang pumbuhos yung ulan dito sa may area at doon na nga nagtuloy-tuloy at tumaas yung level ng tubig ng tubig baha. So ang inaasahan natin ngayon ay inaasahan nga daw ng mga residente ngayon ay sana nga daw hindi na nga umulan dito dahil nahirapan din daw talaga sila doon nga sa biglaang pagbuhos lalo na kahapon. At ang sinasabi dito nung ilan sa mga officials na nakikita natin dito, meron naman daw silang booth around there in the area from the Metro Manila Development Authority para nga if may mga concerns din na kinakailangan ay handa naman daw silang tumugon. So right now, ganito pa lang naman yung situation. We'll look more onto if may mga passengers ba na stranded din kahapon, pero so far wala pa naman.
Actually, Amy, yung pagbaha dyan sa E. Rodriguez, hindi na bago no? Pero masasabi ba natin na may improvement kahit papano dahil mas mabilis nag-recede yung tubig baha kahapon?
Isa yan sa mga natanong ko din dun sa mga cleaners na nandito, no? At nasabi nila, mas mabilis na nga daw yung pag-subside din ng tubig. Ang isa kasi sa mga naging concern lang talaga, no, ay yung mga basura din na nagkalat. Kasi around these areas, yung mga poste na ganyan, may mga basura na nakalagay. So yun yung mga naging struggle lang kung bakit medyo tumataas nga daw yung level ng tubig baha. So yun yung nasabi nila, pero so far nakita naman daw nila yung improvement, and yun nga tulad na nasabi mo before, talagang hindi naman nabago dito sa may area, no, yung pagbaha. Pero based lang din, no, sa ating naging observation when we covered here last year, and in the past few typhoons na nangyari, no, ay mas mabilis din na nakarecover yung mga residente dito.
So Amy, as of this morning, sino-sino pa ba yung mga nakikita mong dyan, Kasi classes have been suspended already. So meron pa rin bang mga commuters, mga pumapasok pa rin sa trabaho?
So far kanina may nakikita pa rin naman tayong commuters, no, lalo na doon sa may area ng EDSA Carousel sa NEPA Q-Mart. Yung mga shops dito, actually itong isa sa mga nasa likod ko, ito open na sila, so hindi na daw nila naisipan na i-close, no, yung area. So bukas naman yung mga shops na kinakailangan. Meron din tayong mga commuters, even doon sa mga bus terminal na nabisita natin kanina ay naging okay naman na din daw yung operations nila today. At yun, wala naman daw mga stranded, no, ng mga pasahero. And so far, hindi ganun kadami nga yung tao dahil nawala ng pasok. Pero isa sa mga nakikita natin, no, ay ongoing naman yung naging operations. May ilan lang din tayong nakitang mga shops na late na nagbukas.
Oo, pero mukhang magiging maulan pa rin mamayang hapon, kaya kailangan mag-ingat pa rin tayo. But for now, thank you very much for that report. That was mobile journalist Amy Atienza.
Motorists traveling south are also dealing with the effects of the continuing habagat rains along the South Luzon Expressway. Mobile journalist Evan Tarinque is live along SLEX. Evan, what's the traffic and road situation there?
Angela, flood free itong mga kalsada sa may Magallanes papunta nga yan sa may South Luzon Expressway o SLEG sa mga oras nga na ito. Ito, makikita nyo naman sa likuran na light, yung free-flowing pa yung daloy ng trapiko ngayong umaga. No? Ganyan din yung nakita natin sa pagmamonitor natin sa SLEX at nananatiling green at light pa rin yung daloy ng trapiko. Hindi katulad kahapon na talagang heavy or mataas yung pagbaha na naranasan ng ilang mga motorista dito nga sa may Magallanes area. No, kwento nga ng ilang mga motorista na ating naabutan dito kanina, talagang kahapon kinailangan daw talaga nilang magdahan-dahan o kaya naman mag-stand still dahil talaga daw baka masira talaga yung kanilang mga sasakyan kung sakali mga subukan nilang sukungin yung taas ng baha na iyon. No, kanina may mga nakausap pa rin tayo mga commuters na pumapasok pa rin ngayong umaga at nagulat nga sila, no, dahil halos yung kalahati na lang ng kanilang biyahe. No, kung dati 2 oras yung kanilang biyahe, ngayong umaga 1 oras na lang daw na. So isa yan sa mga kinagulat nila dahil nga konti yung volume ng mga sasakyan ngayong umaga dito. No? Pero umaasa yung ilang mga motorista dito, lalo na yung mga nakausap natin taxi driver kanina, na sana huwag na magtuloy-tuloy yung pag-ulan dahil talagang kakahapon kinailangan nilang mamili ng pasahero, no? Lalo na yung mga destinasyon nila, yung hindi talaga sana daw bahain dahil ayaw nila i-risk na idaan yung kanilang mga units doon at baka nga araw masira at sila pa at mapagastos pa sila ng medyo malaki. Pero so ngayon mga oras na ito, no, Angela, nananatiling maluwag at payapa pa itong ulan natin, pero nakikita natin medyo gray na yung mga ulap ngayon. So expected natin o inaasahan natin na baka maya-maya bumuhos din yung pag-uulan dito, Angela.
So sa ngayon, Evan, wala namang mga exit lanes dyan ang sarado.
Tama ka din, Angela. No, sa mga oras na ito, free-flowing pa rin both north and south lane, both north and southbound lane ng SLEX ay free-flowing pa naman sa mga oras na ito. No? Kung matatanda natin talagang isa doon sa talagang nagta-traffic talaga or bumibigat yung dalo ng traffic bandang Sukat at Bikutan. No? Lalo na pagdating ng Sukat Road, medyo tumataas yung tubig dyan, kaya mas bumabagal yung daloy ng traffic. Pero sa mga oras na ito, sa ating monitoring sa SLEX, nananatiling green, light, at fast-moving pa rin naman yung mga sasakyan na dumara dito, Angela.
Okay, so nakita kasi natin kahapon na talagang may mga pasahero ang stranded sa iba't ibang lugar, no, dito sa Metro Manila at kabilang na nga yung iba dyan sa SLEX. Pero wala bang naitalang recorded accidents dyan sa SLEX, Ivan?
Angela, ngayon wala pa naman tayo na report na merong na-record na incident na nangyayari sa SLEX. Ang nangyari lang talaga kahapon, nag-stand still yung mga sasakyan sa iba't ibang mga exits dito sa SLEX dahil nga tumaas na rin yung tubig. Kaya naman yung ilang mga pasahero, nakita rin natin sa pag-monitor natin sa social media, na napilitan maglakad papunta doon sa mga exit lanes. No? So isa yan doon sa iniiwasan ngayon na hindi na sana magkaroon ng standstill at hindi na nga tumaas yung tubig or magkaroon ng pagbaha dito sa SLEX. Angela.
All right, thank you so much, mobile journalist Ivan Tarinque.
Stay tuned. Morning Matters returns after a quick break. Good morning. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News. Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial on Tuesday was suspended. The impeachment court canceled the hearing due to forecasts of heavy rains and possible flooding brought by the southwest monsoon. The Senate also canceled its plenary session. Impeachment Court Clerk Renato Bantog Jr. said Senate officials and employees were authorized to work from home.
And joining us now to discuss the latest developments in Vice President Sara Duterte's impeachment trial is Attorney Michael Yusinko, a senior research fellow at the Ateneo Policy Center. Attorney Yusinko, good morning. Thank you for being back on the program.
Good morning. Good morning to you three, and good morning to all of your listeners and viewers.
All right, well, first of all, how important was the testimony of the former Special Disbursing Officer of the OVP, Ms. Gina Acosta, to the prosecution's case? And what were the highlights of her testimony yesterday for you?
To the prosecution's case, I don't think it's that important. It's a corroborative. It's a corroborative to their main and principal evidence, which I believe is the COA, which are the COA auditors. So, kung sa prosecution lang, I mean, in the context of the prosecution's case to prove there was a misuse of confidential funds, si Ms. Acosta was merely corroborative. No? Ang main and principal proof nila, I would say, are the testimonies of the COA auditors. But in the context of governance, if I may add, no, in the context of governance, I think yesterday's testimony is hugely important, no? Kasi nakita natin how flippant government officials are when it comes to accounting for the use of confidential funds. So we should be asking ourselves, ganito ba talaga? Ganito ba talaga nangyayari sa mga civilian offices who are allocated confidential funds like the Office of the President, DOJ, and the Ombudsman, right? And also, ganito ba talaga ang patakaran, no, when it comes to the auditing and the accounting of confidential funds, even with regards to agencies that really need it, like the AFP, PNP, and such. You know, so ganon. From the prosecution's perspective, it wasn't that important because it's merely corroborative. But in the context of governance, this is really immensely important for us to be aware of.
But attorney, when Gina Acosta said that it was the vice president herself instructed her to give the confidential funds to her security detail or si Colonel La Chica, does her testimony make the vice president more directly accountable? And does this also answer already yung inquiry lagi ni Senator Amy Marcos na who's really accountable?
Well, first of all, that inquiry itself is, for a lack of a better term, really stupid, no? Because we all know that heads of agencies are ultimately and primarily accountable for public funds allocated to their office. So yung tanong mismo is walang kwenta, no? So let's begin with that. But also, ang pinapatunayan natin dito sa impeachment trial is there was a misuse of confidential funds. No? So, the details of that, how it was misspent, it's only secondary. Ang kailangan mapatunayan is meron ngang misuse of the confidential funds. And COA, being our state auditor, is the agency or the person who can tell us with authority if there was indeed a misuse of confidential funds. And they have done that through the testimonies of the auditors. So, siguro you can say nga na the testimony of Acosta makes it clearer na talagang the buck stops at the vice president, no? Na siya talaga ang nagturo na gastusin yon or i-allocate yon kung saan man. But that's really secondary. Kasi sa impeachment, ang kailangan natin patunayan with clear and convincing evidence that there was a misuse of confidential funds by the OVP, by the vice president, and the DepEd when she was DepEd secretary. And I believe, as a former litigator, that was established already by clear and convincing evidence in the form of the testimonies of the two auditors from COA.
Well, Attorney Gina Acosta is also the first hostile witness of this impeachment trial. Can we talk about how important it was for the prosecution to be able to have her declared as a hostile witness? What is the significance?
Well, in the context of the impeachment trial, there's really hardly any significance at all. Kasi this is not a criminal trial, no? This is not even a civil trial or an administrative trial. So, whether Acosta was quote-unquote classified as a hostile witness or not, they would have been able to ask the questions they wanted, no? In fact, Cheska, if you observe, karamihan ng mga tanong na importante na dapat may tanong kay Acosta, sino nagtanong? Ang nagtanong si Presiding Officer Escudero eh. Right? Kung napapansin ninyo, lagi sinasabi ni Presiding Officer Escudero, with the indulgence of the councils to abbreviate the proceedings and then diretso na kagad itatanong kay Ms. Acosta. In fact, di ba si Presiding Officer ang nagtanong about kung sino nag-utos sa kanya na ibigay kay La Chica yung pera? It was Presiding Officer Escudero who asked the question. Kasi hindi maitanong nung prosecutor ng tama kasi nag-o-object din yung respondent counsel. And finally, si Presiding Officer Escudero said, sige na nga, ako na nga magtatanong and ask Ms. Acosta that question. So, whether she was classified as a hostile witness or not is really, I would say, not that material in the context of the impeachment trial.
Sabi nila, since she is a hostile witness, the prosecution is allowed to ask leading questions. But for people watching, we just want to ask questions. Most people don't know the difference between a leading and misleading question. What is the relevance of being able to ask a leading question in a trial? And what's the main difference between leading and misleading?
in a context of a criminal trial, for instance, the difference is very important, no? Yung between misleading and leading. Kasi you cannot ask misleading questions. Ibig sabihin you are going to ask a question pertaining to something that was never testified to by a witness. In other words, walang sinabi tungkol doon ng isang testigo tapos itatanong mo siya tungkol doon o tatanungin mo siya tungkol doon. That is a misleading question. Hindi, bawal yon either in both in cross and direct examination. Hindi talaga pwede yon. Leading question is a question that sort of gives a prompt to a witness. Kumbaga, meron kang gustong malaman sa isang testigo, bibigyan mo siya ng hint na yun ang gusto mong malaman in the form of a question. Hindi rin pwede yun kasi tinutulungan mo. In other words, tinutulungan mo yung testigo sabihin kung ano yung gusto mo. Hindi pwede yun. Ngayon, kapag hostile witness, sinasabi ng rules, maaaring pagbigyan yung mga ganong tanong kasi nga magkatunggali kayo ng testigo mo. In other words, ang ina-assume ng rules is hindi magko-cooperate yung testigo sa'yo dahil nga kontra kayo, dahil hostile kayo. So, it gives you like kumbaga a space to ask those leading questions as preparatory to asking the real questions, in other words. So, the difference is crucial when it comes to a criminal trial. But it is not that crucial when it comes to an impeachment trial, as we saw yesterday, na yung presiding officer as taking it upon himself to ask the questions that we all wanted to ask. No? Tayong nanonood.
Per attorney, does there need to be direct evidence that the Vice President herself gave these instructions, or is the testimony of Gina Acosta enough? Kasi she said nga, diba, she just received direct verbal instructions from the Vice President, but it seems there's no paper trail, there was no formal letter or even an email. So, but would that suffice to prove that the Vice President herself instructed Gina Acosta to disburse these funds to a non-accountable officer in Raymond La Chica?
In the context of a criminal trial, yes. Yung testimony ni Acosta being an SDO, tapos sinabi ni Vice President Duterte yung pag-disburse ng funds kay La Chica. That I think is direct evidence. That is in the context of a criminal trial, I would say that is a proof beyond reasonable doubt that complicit si Vice President Duterte for misappropriating the confidential funds. No? But that's in the context of a criminal trial. In the context of an impeachment trial, obviously, certainly that is evidence of Vice President Duterte's role in the misuse of confidential funds. But as I said earlier, that was already established by the COA auditors.
Well, Attorney, what do you make of the prosecution's use of AI-generated photo, to show the representation of 125 million? Kasi others are okay with it, but others don't. Or not.
Well, that's interesting, no? Ang pwede ko lang masabi, Angela, is that that's probably not going to be allowed in a regular court of law. I don't think a judge will allow that because it's prejudicial to the accused, no? To the respondent in the context of a criminal trial. But because this is an impeachment trial, I would say that can be allowed, no? Kasi we're trying to the prosecution should be given all the means possible para matulungan yung mga senators to render an intelligent judgment, di ba? Yun naman ang role ng prosecution dito is they should be helping senators render an intelligent judgment, and if using AI tools to do that, then okay yun. in the context of the impeachment trial, I would say that's acceptable. But ang caveat ko lang is in the context of a criminal trial, that might not be okay. I don't think a judge will allow that.
Well, Attorney, another point of discussion yesterday was a possible language barrier. This was already discussed in the pre-trial that the trial would be spoken either in English or Tagalog. But yesterday, there was also some frustration on Senator Erwin Tulfo's part when he called out the witness and said na bakit dun sa 2024 testimonial niya, kayang-kaya naman niya sumagot in English or Tagalog. Bakit ngayon nahihirapan siya? Can we get your thoughts on this sequence of events?
So, I think, I'm not putting words in the mouth of the respondent here or the respondent counsel, pero it really looked like a strategy to me, no, on the part of the respondent para ma-discarrel yung prosecution by claiming na hindi nakakasalita ng Tagalog or Filipino yung testigo. Just to disrupt their rhythm, so to speak, no? So, ganun yung dating sa akin, no? If I was a lawyer in that team, I would have probably suggested the same, no, na sabihin na hindi nakakasalita ng Tagalog or ng Filipino, kaya kailangan ng translation to Bisaya. Panggulo lang, in other words, panggulo ng proseso. And I think the prosecution was caught off guard, no? Kasi they were not prepared. Kasi kung alam nila, or if they anticipated that the witness would ask for a translator, they should have prepared, di ba? Dapat may dala silang translator nila. No? So it was, yung nakita natin kahapon regarding this matter is really what we call legal gamesmanship, no? Yung nagkakaisahan yung mga bawat abogado. And I think na-caught off guard yung prosecution until finally nag-step in na si Senator Tulfo. Nakuha na niya, nag-gets na niya na nagkakaroon lang ng palabas, and the presiding officer should have noticed that earlier and ordered them to follow the rules, which is yung testify in Filipino or English.
All right, thank you for your insights. As always, thank you for your time, Attorney Michael Yusinko, Senior Research Fellow at the Ateneo Policy Center.
All right, now don't go away. Boarding Matters will be back after this short break. Keep it here.
Good morning, mga kapatid. You're still watching Morning Matters here on One News.
All right, so that's it for today's news. But before we go, of course, we have to talk about our takeaways
My takeaway for today is your birthday!
Pawi's birthday! Happy birthday!
Act surprise!
Kunyari, wala kang nakikita.
Surprise! For those who just tuned in, it is Pawi's birthday today.
Yes.
Birthday wish.
Wala ba tayong happy birthday music dyan, Kuya Elmer?
Thank you, Jay. Wala.
Birthday wish, nandito na yung mga wish ko eh.
Hi, Booker!
May special guest pa tayo.
Birthday!
Okay.
Ano ba yan?
Good morning to the significant other of Pawi.
Ay,
Happy
sus!
birthday. Happy birthday. Oh,
What's his name? Mr. Andre Felix.
Hi, at Tita Angela, Tita Cheska, si Ate Jen. Ate Jen, ano gusto mo sabihin? Mabilis, bati ka, Ate Jen. In English, in English.
English.
Oh, this is One News. Come on.
Say thank
Go, go, go.
Happy birthday po!
What else? What else? Oh, Booker.
Okay,
Hindi.
sige na.
Basta yun,
Overtime
alam
na.
naman yun. It's your day, syempre.
you.
And thank you sa Tita Angela, Tita Cheska, and thank you
Tita May Ates.
sa Morning Matters. Thank you. Happy birthday. We love you. Alam mo yan.
Thank you.
Super. You deserve it. Lahat.
Alright.
Of course,
Happy birthday, Pawi!
it's going to be hard to celebrate today kasi we know the Habagat's still there, it's still raining, so our hearts go out to everyone. Let's still stay safe, stay dry, and let's look out for one another.
Alright, thank you so much. And of course, happy birthday to Pawi. That wraps up today's episode of Morning Matters. I'm Angela Lagunsad Castro.
We hope we've given you just the right start to your morning. I'm Cheska Litongcano.
Let's make the day matter. I'm Pauline Verzosa, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
Kapatid, we are one you.
Your side?
All the time.
Happy birthday, Pawi!